Da kan dere finne plassene. As many of you know, Israel pulled back his ambassador to Norway last year after Norway awarded the Palestinians with a state following the 7th of October. Fortunately for us, we still have the head of mission and charge d'affaires with us today, Yana Kotylar-Gal, to bring some clarity to the situation and answer the big questions that we have. So please give her a warm welcome.
Well, thank you. We didn't say anything about me answering big questions. That wasn't on the. But I'll.
That is what we expect.
Well, Jan, maybe you expect a bit too much. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you. Thank you very much for being here with me today. I'm honored to be here. It's just a profound honor to stand here before you and address this very important annual Congress. And because it's more, for me, it's a gathering of solidarity. For me, it's a gathering of truth and friendship that is beyond anything that I actually feel every single day. But I want to take you back a little bit to like a month ago. I was invited to speak at a very prestigious course here in Norway. Usually they don't very much hear the Israeli perspective, and with a good contact, they said, we want to hear a bit more about the Israeli perspective, come and tell us. I said, wonderful, I'll be honored to. This very good contact of ours, a friend of Israel's, invited me. It was for me, it was an interesting experience. I talked about everything from the Israeli perspective. And one of the first questions that rose after is like, we want to talk about the elephant in the room. You haven't spoken about Gaza. And I said, right, because I know you're going to ask me about Gaza. So I spoke about everything else on our minds, which is a lot. And then, you know, as a good person, as a good diplomat, you always ask for feedback. So I asked this good contact of mine. I told him, listen, so how did it go? Like, was it a good course? Like, was it interesting? He said, you know what? It was very good. The only thing is that your answers were a bit too long, because it felt like you had so much information you wanted us to know, and it was maybe next time just try to talk about 2 or 3 things. And I accepted it. But the problem is that, with all due respect, there is no 2 or 3 things. With all due respect, these numbers as of today. There's 7 fronts we're fighting. There's 59 hostages still in Gaza. We are celebrating 77 years from regaining our independence in our ancestral home of Israel. 582 days in captivity. 582 days since October 7th. And then more than 3,000 years of history. So I want to go a little bit about that. 7 fronts. We all talk about Gaza. War is horrible. The Gaza war is horrible. You know what would have ended it? Today, tomorrow, yesterday, a year ago, bring back the hostages. Bring back the hostages, disarm Hamas, we can continue to talk about anything else. This is something that we're not hearing enough, not only from Norway, but from the world itself. And this is a problem. And I'll explain very simply why. At the end of the day, if the West keeps quiet while the Arab world is being much more vocal, something is really, really off. If we hear people, leaders from the Arab world, stating very clearly, Hamas, if you care about Palestinians, leave Gaza. How come we can hear it from the West, from the Arab world, but we don't hear it from the West? That's the big question. How come? Who's gaining from that? I'll leave that question, because that's a big question I cannot answer. It's a big question that I think everybody, every researcher, which is not lazy, has to figure out what's the reason for that. Because we hear those voices, not once and not twice. We hear those voices, and still the West is quiet. And still Norway, which we all understand the current relationship between the current Norwegian government and the people of Israel. Norway states sometimes the unconditional release of the hostages. But somehow, after the unconditional release, there's always a but. There's always a condition. So I'm not sure that you really understand what the government really understands what is unconditional release of hostages really means. Because then we would have not been here today. We would have not been in 582 days to the war. Norwegian government. Yeah. You know, I have utmost respect to the Norwegian government at the end of the day. I want to establish a good bilateral relationship. But I have to say that 2 weeks ago, we commemorated the day of commemoration of the Holocaust and bravery in Israel, the Israeli day of it. And then yesterday, or 3 days ago, here in Norway, you celebrated 80 years from the release of Norway from the Nazi occupation. And your prime minister gave a very, very long speech. And in that speech, he talked about human dignity. He talked about Norway's, let's say, experience with the Jewish people of Norway. He talked about the desecration of the stones. You know what he didn't say, though? He didn't say a word about this spraying that is up every couple of weeks or something on the Cathedral of Norway, saying Gaza is the new Auschwitz. On May 8th, that was on the cathedral in Oslo. Gaza is the new Auschwitz. Not a word. Not a word. But somehow he found the words to say, after speaking about human dignity, he found the words to say, and that is why we expect Israel to give the humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza and to have the suffering end. This is really? You're talking about the Nazi occupation. You're talking about the Jewish extermination of the Jews in the world. You talked about what happened here in Norway. And then you're talking about Israel. And then you're talking about Israel. Because of what happened to you, you're supposed to do that. On the day of May 8th. That was a bit too much to swallow. I have to say. Just a bit too much. And it's not about Israel. He shouldn't have said anything about Israel. Because at the end of the day, we are in Norway. And what happened to the Jewish people of Norway is the most important thing in the story. Not only the occupation. It's about what happened to the Jewish people, that sending them to their death, to Auschwitz between. Not saying a word about talk about Gaza is the new Auschwitz in the middle of their streets. Not talking about the real rise in anti-Semitism and the fact that the Jews of Norway, your most valuable, vulnerable minority, is feeling threatened from what I hear. And it's not about Israel. It's about allowing hate. It's about allowing hate and not saying anything about it. And I've said it before. At the end of the day, it is all right, and it's right to say, I will fight for your right of freedom of speech. But it's still an obligation and a duty of a government to say, but I condemn the way you do it, or I condemn the hate that it presses to our people, that it brings to our beautiful country. It's okay to do both. But unfortunately, we only heard one. We never heard the second part. So that's what we talked about Gaza. He asked about Gaza, and I said, okay, yes, let's talk about Gaza, absolutely. But before I talked about Gaza, I talked about everything else that Israel is handling with for the last 882 days. 7-front war. Gaza, Hamas, Hezbollah. We did a pretty good job there. Thank you. You know, the people of Lebanon, I think they can thank us and the entire world. Militias in Syria, Shia militias in Iraq, from Iran, directly, for the first time in history, they fired at Israel. The Houthis, of course, our good friends in Yemen, that decide that this is their fight. Don't get me wrong, the Houthis is a whole different story, but still, we are a target for some reason. And also in Judea and Samaria. More and more activities, because when you hear here in Norway, in NRK, that Israel went into Judea and Samaria, went into one of these, to Nablus or anything, it's not because we wanted to go in there. It's because we wanted to make sure that they don't come after us. Because these last 582 days were not only rockets fired at us from every single angle. It was literally inside our houses. It was literally a mom that had to guard her child on the tram in Tel Aviv, in Jaffa, from two terrorists that decided that I would just want to fire anything I see. She guarded her 9-month-old. She died while protecting him, taking a stroll. So this is what we're fighting. We're fighting this war. And this war is a war for existence. And I know people say, you're overreacting. No, I am not. Especially in the face of the disinformation and the blatant twisting of reality and history that we've been seeing. Because at the end of the day, if people really think that screaming from the river to the sea does not mean, to me, that I don't have a place to go home to, you're delusional. It doesn't mean anything else. It doesn't mean, if you need to explain to me what you mean, that means you're saying something wrong or not accurate enough. Because when you say from the river to the sea, you say, Yana, you don't have a home to go back to, you or your family, and I will not accept that. I'm sorry, I will not. I did not start this war on October 7, 2023, on a Saturday morning. And I will have to finish this war somehow. You know what? For the first and foremost, for the Israeli people and the Palestinian people are the same. Because when people claim that they're pro-Palestinians but keep quiet about Hamas, sorry guys, you're in the wrong camp. Very simple. If you care about the Palestinians, really, say and do what the people from the Arab countries are saying and doing. Make sure that Hamas disarms itself and leave. Make sure that Hamas is not a part of the next stage. And I'm guessing if anybody will hear this, Hamas is not a partner to speak to. Let's be very, very clear about this. Extremely clear about this. Again, if the Arab world can say it, if the people of Gaza themselves say it, if you have the brave people that are going out to the streets and saying, Hamas, leave, you're the source of our problems. They're not saying they're the only one, because at the end of the day, it's a war that Israel is fighting, but you're the source of our problems. When you have kids going out to the streets and saying that, why isn't that front page news in Norway? Why is it? And I want to say here a great thank you. I admire and appreciate the hard work that MIF is doing in that regard, to put things straight, to fight the right fights, to talk about the facts, to expose the lies, to talk about complexities when everybody just wants to see black and white. Because I'm sorry, guys, the Middle East is a very different neighborhood. It's all complexities, extreme complexities. So really, from the bottom of my heart, because I see the hard work that MIF is doing and all of you here, it's incredible. It's remarkable. And it's the best thing that I could wish for as allies from the almost 3 years that I've been here, but also to years come. So we had a little bit. So it was very, very interesting course actually back there. And I talked. There were people from the press there. There were people from high places. And I gave him a small fact that, of course, nobody knows or really cares. The ceasefire, the prolonged ceasefire we had until January this year. I'm not going to talk if it was a good deal, a bad deal, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we got hostages back, good. Nothing to say more. But the fact is that the main people that actually benefited from this is Hamas. Clean and simple. I want to give you an astonishing number. Since October 7th, how much money do you think Hamas has gotten from stealing aid? $500 million. I did a very in-depth research before that course because I knew I was going to talk to a certain level of people and I wanted to make sure. $500 million. After the ceasefire, it was the first time since the beginning of the war that the Hamas were able to pay his terrorists a full salary. So tell me who benefited from the ceasefire? Who gained the most? And who hindered the continuance of anything else? $500 million from stealing aid, around $200 million from Iran, and $300 million, approximately, from donations. And then you say, what? Who's going to donate to Hamas? Well, some people willingly are, and some people donate through other channels that they think and they really believe that it goes to the cause of pro-Palestinian cause, but at the end of the day, it really goes to Hamas. And this is where I talk about, of course, I'm not going to say the pseudo-liberal West at this point, that doesn't ask for receipts for any money being given. And that was one of the things that we also said to Norway. It's like, I love the fact that you care, Norwegian government and the people. I want you to continue helping and aiding and everything. But isn't it time to ask for receipts? Isn't it time to make sure that the money that you are paying in your taxes actually goes to enhancing and furthering the goals and the views you believe in? Isn't it a basic requirement? I think it is. I would say that I would like to make sure that my government does the same. So I think everybody should make sure that the money that you give is not going to teaching people to hate, is not going to you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not going to talk about UNRWA. Eugene talked about it enough. But of course, if you have a question later, be my guests. So last week, 10 days, we celebrated our Independence Day. 77 years since regaining our independence in our ancestral homeland of Israel. Thank you. "77 years of, well, a miracle." Let's be honest. We're still standing. And to the people I hear, it's like, at the end of the day, we'll keep standing. No matter what happens, we are standing. As a Jewish democratic state, both together. And believe me, even having these both together is a hassle enough. Just leave us to try to figure that one. I don't think our neighbors are going to allow that, but that's fine. So, yeah. 77 years of a miracle, of innovation, of resilience. And when I stand here today, at the end of the day, I want to talk about the people, because I talk to you, to the people. I want to tell you about two people from Nahal Oz. Nahal Oz is one of the communities that were mostly hurt on October 7. It's from the Gaza envelope. Right next to it, there's also the military base of Nahal Oz that had one of the hardest battles on October 7th. And this beautiful resilience of Shlomo Ron, an 85-year-old. He was at home that Saturday morning together with his wife, together with one of the kids and one of the grandchildren, and the sister, the help, their help. And when they saw everything that's happening, they went into their security room, and then he left the security room. He said, keep there. He went to his salon, and he just sat there alone, waiting for the terrorists to come. And then, of course, the first bunch of terrorists came. Hamas terrorists came in. They saw him. He looked alone. They shot him and took off. And then the others that came in, went in, saw him, shot, good enough, and left. That's how he saved his wife, his daughter, one of the grandchildren, and the help. This is the Israeli resilience. This is it. This is what we are facing. This is what we have to do to make sure that we have this future. This is an 85-year-old. He has seen enough in his life. And he understood what is happening. And he went to make sure that they have a future. This is what he did. And at the same time, I'm pretty sure you all know this name, Matan Angerst. He is a soldier. He was taken from the tank. Everybody knows about the tank, the photo of the tank and the soldier that's been taken from him. And he's been hostage ever since 582 days in Gaza, together with 58 other hostages. And you know, sometimes, I said it also to Uri just a couple of days ago, sometimes it's just ridiculous, the sentences, what we have to say. But until a couple of days ago, we really believed that we have 24 live hostages and 35 dead bodies. And now we are not sure about 3 of the live ones. It's inconclusive. But we will fight for each and every one of those, the live ones and the dead bodies. Because if we don't, we cannot continue. The Jewish people cannot leave anybody behind. It's our core. We are fighting for life. We are honoring life. And we want to make sure that each and every family in Israel can mourn in order for us as societies to start to heal. Because make no mistakes, we are in constant PTSD all the time. And I'm not even talking about the fact that, I've read the first of all, congratulations, Norway has now a national strategy, security national strategy, the first one. Congratulations. And there it says also that you're supposed to rebuild bomb shelters, right? Everybody read that? Oh, come on. It's your national security. So I have to tell you a fun fact that in Israel, we have to have bomb shelters in our houses since 1997. It's a must. You can't have a home. So just understand what that really means. Just understand what it means to us. You can't have a home without a security space. But we put that and we live with that and we prosper and we talk about innovation and we talk about research and we talk about the wonderful things that Norway and Israel could have done together. We go back there. Oh my God, we could have done so many good things together. Maybe we could have cured cancer. With your researchers, with our researchers, with your resources, Maybe. But you know what the problem? We're not given the chance. Because for some reason, the current Norwegian government said just no to Israel at the end of the day. Just no. And in March last year, the Norwegian government has published guidelines to conducting business with Israel or with the Palestinian-occupied territories, which again, people would ask which ones, which borders are you talking? And then in October last year, they highlighted it, just to make sure that you're very, very aware of not conducting business with Israel. But we're not doing a boycott. We're not talking that. We're just making sure that you are in the right direction. And then, of course, we can't be oblivious to what happened in the Labor's Congress now and what happened in the LO's Congress just the other day. I believe in the Norwegian people. Israel believes in the Norwegian people. I believe in the future. If we'll have that, that's up to you, to be honest. That's something that I can only hope for and try to assist you as much as I can. But that's up to you, because with the current situation, I don't see how we can actually do good things together. Put both of our minds and our faiths and our hearts into doing good, not only for us, but for the others. I don't know how we're going to do that. So we have a little bit, we talked about, of course, the hostages. We talked about a little bit about the independence. And you know what? I was going to talk about the more than 3,000 years of history, but I'm pretty sure that each and every one of you here is much better than me at that. Because I know how much you love Israel. But still, in a show of hands, who hasn't been to Israel yet? You are forgiven. No, I'm kidding. Of course, you're more than welcome. Please fix that as soon as possible. I will give you a list of where to go, what to eat, who to meet, places you have to be, and places probably shouldn't. But I've been here for 3 years, and I have this whole, you know me, you've seen me quite a while. I have this long list of things I wanted to say, but then I come here and I look at you and I just want to talk to you. So I don't even know how long I'm talking. Conrad is sitting there. I was like, yes, come on. I have no idea how much time I'm talking yet, but probably not enough. That's fine. Because at the end of the day, I want to hear you. And I'm sure that you have the questions that I can try and answer to give you the tools, the information, the facts to have proper conversations. Because at the end of the day, you are fighting for truth right now. We're talking about complexities that really nobody wants to see and nobody wants to understand. And I know because it's hard to understand complexities. It's really hard. And at this age, 2025, nobody has the power to do so. Come on, I have TikTok. 20 seconds. I know everything I need to know. The problem is you don't, especially not in my very hard neighborhood. But I know that you, and that's why I want to give you the floor, I know that you, each and every one of you, is having these conversations, willingly or not, sometimes, is being confronted with the hard questions. So confront me with the hard questions so I can help you. From the bottom of my heart, again, thank you very much for having me here today. Thank you for being. Thank you for talking. Thank you for raising your voice. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for standing with the truth. And Am Yisrael Chai. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The questions have started coming in, and please send questions if you have any to the number up there. The first one here is related to the protests against Netanyahu before 7th of October, and the protests are still ongoing. What's your view? Are they wrong in their political views and the struggle and the demand to get the hostages out alive?
We need to get each and every one of our hostages back, period. There's no question about that. The fact that it became a political problem, that worries me a lot from the Israeli perspective, from my own country, for my resilience, for who we are, for our values. Because we don't leave anybody behind, period. It's not about a political stand in any way. And regarding the protest, we are, as almost all of you have seen, we are very vibrant and loud democracy, and we like it like that way. Sometimes it's a bit too hard. After October 7, it twisted us completely, but I said it before and I'll say it again. We will continue to be the only democratic country in the Middle East, hopefully for the others they're going to join, but we are going to still be a Jewish democratic country, and we're going to fight for what it means inside every single day. So.
Good response.
Yeah, but short.
Good. So the next one here is regarding the international aid organizations. So what's the reason why Amnesty International and Red Cross doesn't do anything for the hostages?
Can we have the representative of the Red Cross come here, or Amnesty International? That's a great question. It is a great question. I don't know. I don't know what can be the reason. Because if you ask, I think the Red Cross, they would say, it's too hard. It's too hard. Hamas won't let us. Oh gosh, I'm sorry that you had a hard day at work, but we had 251 hostages that you haven't visited even once. We have hostages that we know are in medical need from the day one and are deteriorating because they've been tortured. Thank you for that question, because it reminds me of something I talked to one of my colleagues a couple of days ago, and I said, people think that Israel is exaggerating, but we have people in cages. A cage. Can you picture a cage with a person inside? Underneath ground. Can you picture that? This is what we are dealing with. And even if it's just one, well, you know what, Enarco or whatever, that's one too many. I don't know how many it is, because we have every time hostages coming back and telling us, showing us what happened, telling us what they see is happening. We have Alon Ahel, that he is a pianist, and he's almost going to lose his hearing. And the Red Cross, it's too hard. It wasn't too hard for them to play, ooh, let's have a stamping. We got the hostages with this perverted release of the hostages that they participated in willingly. Yes, we're going to give you this. You're going to sign that we release them. So take some photos. If the Red Cross could have done that, they should have done their job. That's it.
Perhaps we shouldn't be surprised, given the history of Red Cross during Holocaust, and they visited these Theresienstadt ghettos and said, oh, the Jews weren't treated that bad, were they?
Yeah. Can I say something about that, though? It's a good thing they reminded me. We had the deputy minister, Shireen Haskel. She had an interview with Yama a couple of weeks ago in his new talk show. What is it? Yama Confronts, Yama Interrogates, whatever it is. But she said something very, very, very nice, actually. He asked her, when he gave her the ability to answer, he asked her something about, why do you think that the people, that Israel is losing support, that you had massive support right after October 7th, and then you started losing it. And then she said, well, everybody loves dead Jews, but when we're strong ones, it's harder to swallow. And it was a very interesting comment, and there's some base to it. There's some truth to it. Again, you can criticize us. We can have a hard discussion talking about, all good. We're not perfect. We never said we were. But still, there's something so true about that comment that I take with me. So, but just because you talked about the Holocaust and everything. So.
Great, thanks. Next question here. Does Israel consider to impose any sanctions or boycotts against Norway, given our actions?
No, we like to talk to people. Well, not terrorist organization, like not Taliban or something. But it's not in the cards right now. And I have to say, I love you, the people of Norway. You're not top priority, though, to Israel right now. The current Norwegian government. You kind of played yourself outside. So wanting to be part of the solutions or wanting to be part of any next negotiations, you kind of lost Israel's trust right now. So good luck.
All right, so next question here. To what degree is settler violence a problem? Or is it made a bigger issue than it deserves in Norwegian media?
Very good question. I actually had that question also in that course that I was doing. Any sort of violence from extreme views should be condemned, period. First and foremost. Talking about how it is seen in the Norwegian media, let's be honest, there was a rise. But at the same time, there was also a rise in terrorism coming from the West Bank. And at the same time, looking at the way that, let's say, NRK has been talking about it, you see the violence, you see the incident, but you never follow up. You never see that these people were arrested or put on trial or have anything legal. We have a very strong judicial system. We use it. We use it against any violence towards any people. We use it against our own soldiers when they are not conducting the way they should conduct. We do that, but you don't hear that. You only see the first things, the clickable ones, but there's never the follow-up. So there is a follow-up.
Great. How would you describe the relationship between Norway and Israel since October 7th? And when do you think it will get back to normal?
I can't say when it's going to be back to normal. I can only say that with the current Norwegian government, it's not going to be normal. No, it's... It's interesting because at the end of the day, first and foremost, we saw, and I still get a lot of hate, but also a lot of love. And if I look even at MIF, you have grown how much since the war? More than 4,000 members. So this is what I want to see, what I choose to see in our relationship. I choose to see the people that are not afraid to say, well, you know what? Complexities? You know what? The only democratic country in the Middle East, you know what? They just went through the worst massacre of Jews ever since the Holocaust. So I choose to see that. But as I said before, at the end of the day, our ambassador was recalled to Jerusalem not because Norway recognized the Palestinian state. It was not because, it was just an end of a very long, bad deterioration in the relationship ever since October 7th, of statements and actions. And now we're talking about the ICJ, that Norway decided to ask for an advisory opinion. Of course, it was hugged by the UN, but you know, we all understand how the UN works these days and the automatic numbers that there are against Israel. It's just a numbers game. It's not about anything else. It's just... It wasn't because it was already the step too much. And I remember saying that even live. I said, you know, you're only awarding Hamas with this. And the claim was trying to strengthen the moderate voices, yada, yada, yada. But the truth is that the first person that congratulated Norway about the recognition was Hamas spokesperson. And when I try to talk to, even now when I try to talk to like people, which I'm not really talking to the government, unfortunately, but everybody else, I say at the end of the day, your recognition created 3 problems. First, you did not strengthen the moderates. It was the government's decision. It was completely awarding Hamas for the terror of October 7 and the terror that they're imposing on their own people every day. Second, you lost the trust of the moderate people in Israel, the counterparts, the people that always believed in the peaceful solution of the two states. Norway has lost their trust. And the third thing, when you're talking about settler violence, when Norway decided to recognize Hamas after such a deterioration of attitude towards Israel after October 7th, it actually also strengthened some of the extreme voices in Israel. That's how it works. Because they said, even when we do everything correct, or when we try to, we're still being blamed, or they're still awarding terror. So what's the point? This is what the recognition did. And I'm sure this is not what they wanted to do, but come on, just do some real research and figure out where it's going to head. Yeah.
Right, thanks. So can you please describe what kind of conversations you have with the Norwegian government, if any? Can you have a free, open discussion like we have here today?
The conversation will go like this. Because there is no conversation. I'm sorry, there is no. I wish there would be but let's say it's not only since we called our ambassador for a consultation. It was even before we told them, listen, like, we understand that you have criticism and we understand, but there's a way to conduct this. And it's a face-to-face. It's in the diplomatic channels. We're not supposed to hear what you think about us from the press. You need to talk to us. If you want to talk about us and not to us, then go ahead. You're more than welcome to. This is not how we do it. This is not how we perceive the proper way of doing it. So go yourself into the media and see how much you hear about Israel and how much you hear from Israel. That's it. This is our relationship.
All right. Well, all right. So the next question is about, how to respond basically to accusations and what the other side says. So, for example, when the supporters of the so-called supporters of Palestinian people say or demonstrates, hunger and show pictures of hungry children and poverty in Gaza, and that's terrible. But how do you respond to? I guess they're implying that Israel is responsible for all of that, and we need to trust what Kogat says.
Yeah, well, there's so many levels in this question. And you see, I told you you're probably going to have a lot of questions and I should stop speaking. First and foremost, talking about the world today, media, talking about disinformation, we have to, the war is horrible. There are real horrendous photos from Gaza. At the same time, we first and foremost have to make sure that these are actually photos from Gaza. This is one thing. Because unfortunately, it's a war-torn world. And it's not once and not twice that pictures from other places were used, first. Second, war is horrible. I still put the entire, really everything on Hamas. Give our hostages back, put your weapons down, show that you care about Palestinians. Next. Third, we need to believe Kogat. That's also very interesting because when you look at the way, and Miff is very good at looking at that, when you look at the way they are framing every news from the Middle East, it's always the Ministry of Health of Hamas says and Israel claims. What is that about? Like, why would you automatically believe a terror organization and not a democratic, even if flawed, with all due respect, Israel, like Norway are also flawed, let's be honest, okay? So that's the third level. And the fourth level is at the end of the day, war is horrible. There are people suffering. We would wish it to end by giving the hostages back, forgoing the weapons, because Israel will never be able to go back to October 6th. I want to be able to tell my children there are no monsters under the bed. Simple, and I deserve that. Jewish life are also important. And when they talk about the photos, there's no photo from our hostages right? We don't know what situation they are. Well, you know what we do know when we see propaganda videos from Hamas that they share in order to psychologically terror us. And also talking about the images, at the end of the day, there is a calorie count at war, because we're talking about the rules of engagement and humanitarian law. There's a calorie count that you have to have in order to make sure that. And Israel has always, with the people on the ground, with the organizations on the ground, had made sure that they have this calorie count. How ridiculous it sounds, but this is where we are. We're at war. And again, we gave the aid. During the ceasefire, there was more than 600 trucks a day. Do I need to remind you how much Hamas has stolen? So the world can, I still say, the world can end tomorrow. Simple. The suffering of everybody could end. And if these people pretend to care about Palestinians, then they should put their entire effort in making sure that Hamas doesn't exploit them and ruin their future. So I would actually say that. Simple. That was a long answer, I'm sorry.
Oh, that was great. We are so happy to have you here and so glad that you came. And for the information for the audience, this is Yana's last conference, perhaps.
Last.
At MIF, she's returning this summer. So please give her a really good and warm wishes back to Israel. And thank you so much for the work you have done here. And we are so grateful again for having you here.
Thank you very much. Oh, thank you. Thank you.